It's time for another episode of Hometown Historic Churches. So once again, this is Jonathan Moore with the Hometown Historian channel. We are here at St. Luke's Episcopal Church once again on the corner of 6th and Chestnut Street. We are actually graciously were invited to come here by the church historian, and their priest and the historian are going to take us around the church and the interior and talk about the history and talk about their church. So let's go over there and check it out. Thanks, everybody. Hey everybody, so we are here with
Steve Doster with St. Luke's Episcopal Church in Lebanon.
And with
Father David Zwifka. I'm the rector here. Steve is our senior warden.
So they graciously invited us here to be able to see this beautiful church. I mean, this is extraordinary to be able to have this opportunity. It's a privilege. So thank you, both of you.
Our pleasure.
So Father's gonna talk about the church.
This is not our first church. This is actually I believe the third building that was used by this congregation when it was set up in the middle of the 19th century. And the first church was actually a frame building that was over away where our parish hall is now. And then this church was built as a more permanent structure. So this dates from the end of the 19th century. And it took on the characteristics of where the Episcopal Church was at the time. There was a big movement in Anglicanism across the world called the Oxford Movement, which restored a lot of the small c Catholic roots of the Anglican tradition or the Episcopal Church. And so Gothic revival was a very big part of what was going on. So that's why this church is very much a Gothic revival church. Some very interesting little things about it, though. The architect, whose last name was Conran, he had some very specific things he wanted to do with this building. For example, if you just look at the capitals on each of these columns, and if you would go to each one of them, they would all be different. And if you look at them, they're plant life. And so what he tried to do was incorporate plant life, or at least that's what we believe, that's native to this area. So that was actually became part of the fabric and the art of the church as well. So that you see that even on the side of the choir pews over here, for example, right here. And each one of them, if you would check on them, they'd all be different. Again, the same kind of concept. Another important concept he had in building the church was that there would be, no matter where you were in the church, a totally unobstructed view of the pulpit there and of the high altar there. And that's true. You can have people standing, you can have the choir up here in the choir stall standing, and you can still see. So it's an amazing use of proportion and line of sight in terms of his planning. It was just an amazing kind of thing. The brickwork, as you see, all of that also is, I'm not an architect, I'm not a builder or an engineer, so I don't know all of the technical terminology for it, but it was a very particular kind of work that was done. They imported masons and bricklayers from Europe to come here. In fact, the houses across the street housed some of the Italian quarrymen.
Oh, wow.
Who actually did some of the quarrying of the stone for the outside of the church. So all of this is just a beautiful example of coming together in terms of different ideas, different craftsmen. You could not do that today. This could not be done today.
No, this is definitely something that you'll never see again.
That's
Yeah.
probably true, yeah.
Yeah, it's just the craftsmanship that went into this is amazing. Truly was a house of worship.
Yes,
You know?
it still is. And,
Yeah.
and in fact, the kind of thing, like even in homes today, I used to be working, when I was not in ministry, I was working in the historic preservation arena. And I know a lot of people in historic districts don't like them because they have to redo the house the way it was originally built with materials and so on. And it's very hard to get those things anymore. For example, like the capitals that you see on the top of the columns, today that would probably be some sort of pressed amalgam of some, sort of plastic or something like
Yeah.
that. These are stone carvings.
Yeah, which is it's amazing
Yeah,
that you have
absolutely.
something like
Yeah.
right here in Lebanon that this exists.
Yeah, yeah. And some interesting other things too. For example, right there, that mosaic was a special mosaic that was put together, and it was erected as a memorial for Ellen Habershaw, who was the first Mrs. Coleman. She died quite young. She was shortly after they actually moved here. And there's a legend. It's actually, I think there's some historical basis to it, that she was interred in the crypt, which is below, under the main altar.
Okay.
But then when Mr. Coleman married again, the second Mrs. Coleman did not like the fact that the first
Yeah.
Mrs. Coleman was there, so she was disinterred from the crypt and taken to a family plot over in the Philadelphia area. Is where
Okay.
she was from. So there's sort of that legend going on. And of course, every Gothic building needs a ghost. And so people really still feel that it's her ghost that populates the place. So
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
one of those kinds of things. Another interesting tie to the Colemans is the statue over in the corner, that angel as you see it. That statue was originally the baptistry at Christ Presbyterian Church that just
okay.
recently
Yeah.
closed. And because it was in a Coleman church, the Colemans had built that church as well, the congregation wanted it to be housed in another Coleman-related church, so they gave it to us. And the interesting thing about it is that the face on that angel is the death mask of one of the Coleman children,
Oh, really?
who was a young boy who was killed in a horse accident. He
Is
fell
that the
from a
one that the
horse.
church was, the Coleman Memorial Chapel over in Brickerville, that they dedicated that chapel to him, I
I'm
believe,
not
is his
sure.
son. I think it was James Coleman.
It could be.
Yeah, the
He
son.
was like 14 or so.
Yeah, yep, that's-
Yeah. And so that's his face, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Wow.
they didn't want that to go to some auction house or something. They wanted it to be preserved here.
Yeah.
So they gave it to us, and we, of course, paid to have it moved here. And eventually, we hope that it will be housed out in our portico out here. We're going to
Okay.
enclose that in time.
Okay.
And that everybody can see it. That
Yeah.
will be an interesting kind of piece of art. And it's one piece of Carrara marble. It's
Oh, wow.
priceless.
Yeah.
Absolutely priceless.
That was the thing with the Colemans I talked about on the channel, because we've done a lot of stuff here in Lebanon. Like the Colemans, they didn't do anything halfway. Like
Right.
beautiful, like whether it's the railroad station, the different churches that they paid for, educational institutions.
Yes.
It's a shame that there isn't more that people know about the Colemans, that this is the Colemans and what kind of influence they actually had. I mean, they did so much.
Actually, a lot of our papers are now on file at the State Museum.
Okay.
At the archives there. But we have copies of everything that we sent over there. And the person who's now our director of music and organist is the retired librarian from Evangelical Seminary in
Oh,
Myerston.
wow.
And so his name is Dr. Terry Heisey. He has a great extensive historical knowledge of a lot of these stories he could tell you,
Oh, yeah.
from his own research that, through our papers and so on.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much. You think about these places, that there were these places within the community, society centers, and what an importance they had to people's faith, surviving terrible times. It really is a bedrock of a community. And
In fact, as I showed you this mosaic here, there's another memorial plaque which we highlighted a couple of years ago on the centenary of the First World War. This is the memorial to the people who gave their life during the First World War, who were from this parish.
Wow. That's really, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need help.
Just so that everybody knows, we have a program with Harding Elementary School, which is catty corner from us, that we have. It's called Power Roast Coffee, and we give away coffee and hot chocolate, depending on the weather, lemonade in the summertime, to the kids and their parents as they come over. So that's somebody was calling for help.
Yeah.
All right, some of the other interesting things, you see these globe lights here. The globe lights are not original to the church. The church was originally lighted with gas chandeliers.
Oh, wow.
So when electric became possible, they electrified the lighting by actually creating these globes, and they replaced the chandeliers. The new lighting, we just replaced all the lighting. It was a gift from Dr. George Connor in honor of his wife Betty, who just passed away. So we retooled all of the lighting in the church. It's all LED, low voltage,
Nice.
all controllable. So it's a beautiful kind of innovation that we have now.
Yeah.
And in fact, the great window there is now backlit, so that if you pass by after dark, you'll see it just glow. It's really, really, really beautiful.
That's really neat. It's just bringing out the beauty for everybody to enjoy, because this is
That's what we hope to
stunning.
have more and more open houses, tours, that sort of thing. And actually, the vestry approved a couple of years ago, before COVID, and of course COVID stopped just about everything. But we now permit people to use the space for weddings if they're interested. There's some rules around it and so on, because it is a sacred space, but it's open to the public to do that. Hopefully so that we can share it with the community.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you just, until you actually come in, because I've never been here before, it's just, wow. It's stunning, it really is.
Actually, right over there, those doors there,
Yeah.
that leads off to the parish hall,
Okay.
where our offices are and all. But people often come to the main door of the office because the church is locked. They say, "Can we go and see the church? We've never seen it before." And our administrator loves bringing people over.
Oh, wow.
She says it happens every time. She'll open those doors, they'll walk in, and it's just takes your breath away, because people are not expecting this at all.
Well, this is something you'd expect, like, hey, Philadelphia, Boston, one of the older cities on the East Coast, that you'd see something like this. Just to have something like this here in Lebanon, Pennsylvania, is amazing.
Yeah.
And how many people aren't aware of this?
Right.
That's the thing that's, like, it's stunning to me sometimes. Like, I knew this was here, but until I started doing the channel, I didn't realize, like, wow, this is really impressive. And then to be inside here for the first time is just, it's all inspiring.
Things are a little mixed up right now. It's 3 days before Christmas, and so we're starting to get ready, and the flowers were just delivered today. So, but yeah, we're getting ready. We have a family service at 5 on Friday, and then on Saturday rather, on Christmas Eve, and then 2 choral services Christmas Eve, and then a mass on Christmas Day on Sunday. A lot of churches don't even have services on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And we still do. So.
Well, is it okay if I just quick run around and film?
Sure. If you
And
have any
just
questions, let me know.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, as you can see, this place is stunning. I'm gonna quick go around the back here to come through the door, because I don't want to trip over anything. There you can see straight up through the sanctuary here, and just how amazing. And just look at this roof. Ceiling is unbelievable. It really is one of those things that you don't understand how amazing this place is until you're inside here, and you're just like, wow. And as you guys know, I love stained glass. Alright, so we're not going to try this today with the boot on, but there is a way to go up to the bell tower, and at some point we will try to do that. And so you guys can check out, this tower is actually the highest point in Lebanon. Something I didn't know that they just told me. Very, very cool. So this is the...
So this is our passageway to the auditorium and the administrative wing and education wing of the parish, and what passes through is what we call the Cloister of Saints, and it depicts the different saints that have been in the last, centuries.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go take a look at it.
And then once again, this is, as Father had said, this was actually the death mask of the son that passed away. We did the Coleman Memorial Chapel, and that was dedicated to him. I think it was a James Coleman. I'll have to change that if it was a different name, but I believe that's what it was. But this was over at the Christ Presbyterian Church over near Coleman's Park, and then it was given to the church here because this is another Coleman church. But yeah, then you can see all the beautiful stained glass of the different saints.
Now that one there was actually done by a previous rector when we added the elevator for handicap compliance. We had to eliminate these two windows, but I can show you the windows that we removed.
Okay. We'll have to do a series on those as well. So this is the crypt where supposedly Robert Habersham Coleman's wife was laid to rest for a time, and then when his second wife came along, the story goes, whether once again it's true or not, because you haven't been able to find evidence of that being the case or not.
I've heard the story, but I have no
So that's
evidence.
sort of, it's one of those stories that sort of goes around the urban legends and stuff like that. But this is the crypt, is right underneath the altar in the church, so it's pretty neat. And we're not going to film inside because I just don't feel it'd be appropriate. So that's just sort of how I feel. But anyways, I just wanted to show you guys that just quick. So just another thing we'll quick show you. This is actually underneath the church itself. And you can see where underneath the pillars, and it's like just how something like this is built, and you get to see the foundations of the church that you wouldn't ordinarily ever see. You see the huge beams here. They don't make them like they used to, that's for sure. So here's another neat place in the church. This is the
Trinity Chapel.
Trinity Chapel, and nice little piano there. Or is that an organ?
That is actually an organ, and it is a mechanical organ where you have to pump the pedals to actually send the air through the pipes and so forth. So this is where we hold weekday services on a Wednesday.
This is impressive. The woodwork in here is, wow. Okay.
So that if you look at the wainscoting all around the doors, the coffered ceiling, that all of this was part of the dining room of the Coleman Mansion that was torn down in north of the city. Actually, these right here on either side of the altar, they look like doors.
Oh, wow.
Those were the doors to the butler's pantry.
Oh, wow.
They're not doors now, they're just there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's where all of this came from.
So that would be one of them from Coleman's Park.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. That's neat to know. Something still exists from those.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was a shame. It was like in the 30s, it just sort of tore them all down. I guess the Homestead was the last one that was left in the 60s.
Right.
Because I did a video on that as well. I was just intrigued. It's a shame that isn't there, because that would have been such a treasure to the community. but
And in fact, this altar used to be the altar at the Trinity Chapel in North Cornwall.
oh, okay,
Right on 422,
okay.
which has just been purchased, is going to be moved. That used to
Yeah.
be part of this parish.
Oh, wow.
And until the 80s, they used it as an operating church, and this was the altar that was in there.
Oh, wow.
So we call this actually Trinity Chapel in
Okay.
honor of that building.
Okay,
This
now
is
is
what
that the one
building
that's across from the in for what used to be in
Yes,
420?
yeah.
Okay, so that was originally called the Trinity Chapel.
Trinity Chapel.
Okay.
That was
so-
part of St. Luke's Church.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I had just done a video there as well,
Uh-huh.
and just talking about it, because they used to build the churches specifically for like a furnace there,
Correct.
and they'd build the chapel for the parishioners
Right.
in that
There
area.
was a habit of doing that at the turn of the century for when you had company towns. They
Mhm.
would build churches and
Yeah.
shops and those
And
kinds
the
of things.
Colemans did it better than anybody. They definitely did, because it's like, wow.
Yeah, indeed. They stood the test of time, that's for
Oh,
sure.
yeah. Well, this is really neat information. No idea about that.
And actually, that organ is a foot-pumped reed organ
Okay.
that was built. There was an organ company here in Lebanon, and that was built there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We don't use it very much because it's a lot of work.
Oh, yeah. I can
You
imagine.
have good cardio stamina to play the
Yeah.
organ. So.
Get your workout and burn about 1,200 calories. So I want to say thank you to everybody for coming along. This was a fantastic experience. It really was. I want to say thank you to Stephen, to Father, for inviting us here to be able to see this extraordinary church. We'll have, you have all the more historical information we were able to get and talk about different things that have to do with the history of the church and just experience such an amazing place. I mean, it really is. This is one of those things that's just a tremendous privilege. So hopefully we'll be able to do more of these, but I'm going to give you the times that they have their services and those types of things. And like Father had said, you'll be able to come. They're going to have more open houses and all those things to be able to let people to experience this beautiful place that we have right in our own backyard. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you all about town. Hey, everybody. So I wanted to do this in closing just to explain. This is only going to be part one of the videos here on St. Luke's Episcopal Church. There's so much involved history-wise. Both Father David and Stephen gave me a whole bunch of backstory and history to the church, so I want to make myself aware of everything there, and then just sort of get it ingrained in my mind. And then all for the pictures of both the outside and inside of the church, I will then put together a video on the history of the church and sort of intersperse whatever in there. But I have to say, this was such a cool experience. I really am grateful and I feel privileged, and a big thank you to Stephen Doster and Father David once again, who were so gracious with their time and just showing me around and allowing me the opportunity to see such an extraordinary church. It really is one of those things, like I think I said in the video, that it's something that you'd think you'd see in like Philadelphia, Boston, New York City, like one of the older Eastern Coast city that you'd see one of these great Gothic churches, chapels, and it was great. So thank you to you both. I will be adding in this video as well. I'll be talking about their services, but you know what? I will do that right now. And I'll also be putting up the link to their church website. So they have on, which was today, they have their work together with the Hope Church in Mount Hope, which we'll visit at some point. They had a service the 4th week of Advent. Christmas Eve on the 24th, they have a family service. They have 5 p.m., 7 p.m., and 11 p.m., which is like, I guess, like a midnight mass. Christmas Day, the 25th of December at 10 a.m., they have Christmas Mass. And then January 1st, they had the Feast of a Holy Name of Jesus. They have that service there as well, Christmas lesson and carols. So they also have a website live on their YouTube channel, which I will be putting up their YouTube channel as well in the comments. So go and visit them. They're on 6th and Chestnut I'll try to put up the address as well. With putting up the website, you can check it out and stuff like that. But what an extraordinary place. You know, the history, the people, just it's a place built in love, no doubt. So the next video, at some point we'll try to go and do the bell tower, but I'd also like to be able to have Father David sort of talk about the church, its outreaches and things of that nature, and be able to invite you guys in. That was something that just completely slipped my mind that I wanted to be part of this video, but wasn't able to do. But I may even take a picture of this and then load that up as well at the very end, so you guys can see her and check that out. So, you know, you can even check out either their web services that they have, or go there in person. I know I plan on doing that at some point. So, as always, I want to say thank you. And I said this earlier in the video, but we will see you all about town.